Hello everybody, Hexagön here, and welcome to Balmaine, a London-inspired city skylines project, which I'm currently building. So this is the first episode of the project. I've actually worked a bit on the map before, although not necessarily doing anything related to London. Eventually I decided I wanted to keep the map and continue the save, so I just decided to build this project on top of it really. So if you see some buildings in the background, that's what it is basically. Maybe I'll integrate it eventually, but what I'm doing now is going to be a series. Hopefully I'll be able to keep it going on for a while. Hopefully it'll be more than just 1 or 2 episodes, but we'll have to see. But I'm pretty inspired right now, so I think I'll be able to get quite a bit done in this series already. What I'm building now is a tube station. I'm using the modular London platforms that I built, basically model off the London Underground platforms that you get in real life. And what I'm building here it was inspired by the Hexagön London Overground station, which you can see in this part of London here. It's in the Beauvoir town in the East End, if you're not familiar with London. And in real life it's an overground station, but I decided to make an underground station which is elevated. So a bit confusing, but basically it'll have metro/tube trains running through it, and it'll have the tube brand. So the area that I was inspired by is the Beauvoir town in London, and it's a pretty interesting area because there's 3 parts to it that kind of encapsulate London as a whole. So the first area it has is a council estate with a mix of low-rise and high-density apartment blocks, mostly social housing. The second area it has is around the Canal zone. It used to be an industrial kind of, there wasn't really much going on, the industry was in decline, and ever since it became a bit of a hipster, gentrified area. Now there's also like techies moving in. And then the third area is to the north. It's a very typical London suburban area, which has Georgian and Victorian houses, you know, nice, fairly wealthy, very green. So yeah, it really has lots of different parts that you would find in most of London really, and I thought that was why it was an interesting area, because it's very small but it's also very diverse at the same time. So here we have the station walls using Electrix's New York station props. This is a green and white wall that I'm using, and I feel it fits the style quite well. I then used some roof props to put over the station to stop people from getting wet, which obviously in a London or UK city is very high chance. So there's not that much choice for roofs on the workshop. I eventually used these ones here that I'm putting down right now. Electrics also made some red ones, but I felt that these ones fit a bit better. I might make some of my own actually sometime, because if I use these for each station it'll get a bit boring maybe. So yeah, this station here is going to be fully functional. I'm not sure how I'll get people to enter. I'm going to put down some pedestrian paths to get them onto the platform without maybe flying up through the buildings, but we'll have to see. So yeah, getting the station right took quite a bit of work. In the end, I show this side being done in the video, but off camera I basically mirrored this section and copy and pasted over to the other side and detailed it as well. It also took some work to get the everything to be at the right height, since it was constantly changing when I copy and pasted it, but overall it was a fairly fun build to do. So here I started plopping down some typical Victorian houses, terrace houses, and I changed them up a bit with procedural objects so that I could add some shop fronts. So for example, this one I added a Starbucks. I think it's really cool that there's so many of these new kind of modular shop fronts on the workshop now, especially from people like Lord Grooney. And because they're just really helpful, since they're so versatile, you can fit them in to really any house, and they really fit the theme, because a lot of them are typical chains that you can get really anywhere, so they're helpful for whatever city you want to build really. So around here I put down some more houses. I created a kind of typical high street, I guess, with just the average kind of shop fronts and houses that you'd see on any street in London really. These houses I put here are a bit more grand. I'm not sure exactly what time period they're from. I think they might be Georgian, but I got rid of some of the vanilla foliage with procedural objects, and then I kind of added my own decorations to them. So why did I decide to build a city around London? Well, I guess I've always been really interested with the city of London really. I find it such an interesting city. I've been there quite a lot of times. I've been about maybe 10 or 15 times to London, and I find that each time you go there's just something to do that you haven't done before. It's it's just a really vibrant and diverse city full of different characters and styles of architecture and everything, and I just think that it's a very interesting place to try and use as a benchmark in City Skylines really. And also with this whole coronavirus outbreak going on right now, it's given me quite a bit more time to go and record episodes and build in City Skylines, so I decided to take that as an opportunity and get some stuff done really. Thought it would be a fun thing to do, since I haven't been uploading in a very long time. So right here I'm kind of making a small little plaza outside this new block of apartments. Put some planters and trees down, and a sushi shop at a Tesco Express. And then I started building a cycle path. So the cycle paths in London are actually blue, like you can see here in Stratford. And I think it's kind of an interesting color, since most bike paths across the world are either red or green, I guess. I think they're also blue in Copenhagen, but certainly in London you have these very distinctive blue bike paths. There aren't that many bike paths in London. The cycling infrastructure it's not amazing, but there are a few decent stretches, mainly called cycle superhighways, although in the Netherlands they'd just be called a bog standard bike path really. So put some bollards along the path to separate it from the road, although I think it might have been a bit more realistic to use a curb network. So after this I continued to build around the high street area, and then I moved on to the canal area, which was a bit more of an interesting area to do. You'll see that in a bit. I do plan to, in some later episodes, do some more, London builds around the River Thames, or what will be the equivalent of the River Thames in this city. I haven't really figured out how I'm actually going to do that, because, central London is quite distinct, it's got quite a distinct feel, and currently on the City Skylines workshop there isn't that much, London style architecture that I could use that would actually fit the city centre areas. So I guess I'll have to mix and match a bit. I saw some of the Parisian flats. Maybe if I procedural object them a bit, then PO them, then maybe I could get them to fit a bit better, but currently I'll have to see what I can do. Maybe there'll be some more assets on the workshop by the time I get around to that. I'll have to wait and see. But certainly, it'll be a bit more tricky to do, the very iconic parts. However, there are actually some London assets on there that I could use. There's definitely the Big Ben. There's, I believe there's the mayor's office. Not exactly sure what the name of the building's called, but it's the one that sits next to the Tower Bridge. I saw that there was a Tower Bridge asset on the workshop, but I don't know how good the quality is. There might be several, I'm not sure, but the one I saw, I'm not sure if I'll use it. But yeah, and then for the City of London, I'll use some more regular skyscrapers. There's quite a lot of gherkins in the workshop, so that'll be helpful. And then, yeah, I'm looking forward to definitely building around the river, getting some of the bridges. There's quite a lot of suspension bridges that'll be pretty interesting to use. So back to what I'm building now, I'm putting in some older factories. Now, these factories would have been around for quite a long time. They would have transported goods down through these canals, linking up these suburbs. And right now, I guess, that some of them would still be in use, but eventually, since the land value in this area will have risen quite a lot because of its proximity to the city and like the transit links, and of course the fact that it's London, eventually the land value have got high enough so that these the land that they sit on would have become high enough for people to sell them. So that's why I'm mixing it in with new modern apartments, pretty densely packed together, because of course space is at a premium here in London. And I guess eventually quite a few of these warehouses and such will eventually be either demolished or they'll be converted into luxury lofts. So you'll see me put down a few more of these type buildings. I also built a kind of construction site, not really in construction, more in site preparation, I guess. And then later on the other side of the canal, I built another one. I still haven't decided whether I'll keep this canal at this width. I was thinking of maybe making it a bit wider, because I wanted to add some boats and maybe some pontoons and stuff along it. But I actually looked on the workshop, there isn't that many canal boats. There's a lot of sailboats and speedboats, but there's not really many barges or houseboats or anything. So I downloaded some, but currently the Japanese canal that I'm using by Ronex, I believe. It's a very nice asset, but it's pretty narrow, and you can't actually put many boats in it without it looking a bit strange, because they just look very oversized. So yeah, I might make it a bit wider, or I'll keep this at this length, at this width, and then build more of a dock or something somewhere else where I can have the kind of canal boat vibe. So here I'm putting down a few shops built into the this warehouse, and I put some street art down that I thought looked pretty cool. Imagine this area along the canal here to be a pretty trendy area with lots of different bars and art galleries and all the kind of, you know, gentrified hipster type of thing that you would get in the East End of London. And then I also made it pedestrianized because I wanted to have some outdoor cafes, pubs, all that kind of thing, and I didn't really want cars to be going along the canal. And then in case you wouldn't normally see, I believe almost all the canals in London they have a canal walkway along it, but cars are not allowed in any of them, I don't think, or it's pretty rare to see cars on them. So they normally have boardwalks or pedestrian paths along them. Currently I haven't actually put any railings along the canals, mainly because I put some on and it felt a bit, I don't know, I didn't really like the fit of them. But then I realized that since I'd put a few pubs down, then, I mean, maybe not having railings on the canal is not the best idea, so eventually, I don't know, maybe off camera I'll go put some railings along where the pub is. I'll have to see. But here I put down some more lofts, or a kind of warehouse building or factory that's been converted into lofts, but some more of the Lost Gecko's modular apartments down with the grassy roofs that are pretty cool. Because a lot of these in real life you do see grass roofs on them, because they're built quite recently and they have to incorporate the you know, pretend that they're being, you know, eco-friendly, green, and that they're appealing to biophilia and all that kind of stuff. So I put some plants on the top. I do plan to have a larger apartment block where I go and change the roof up and put like an urban farm down, like that they're growing something on there, maybe some beehives. I think that would be pretty cool, because you do see more and more in cities that they're using the rooftops to grow stuff, or grow vegetables and stuff, and I think that's a pretty cool idea. Especially on lot you do see beehives, because the bee population is going down, and it's cool to have a kind of, you know, some agriculture, or at least some nature in cities, so that they're not just concrete jungles. So here I started moving on to building a bridge over the canal, and I was originally going to have a bridge that went a bit higher above the water so the boats and barges and stuff could go under, but then it turned out to be a bit harder than I was expecting, and I didn't really have the assets, so I decided that since the canal is pretty narrow, I'd just have it as a sort of just more of a decorative piece of water, so boats and barges and stuff won't actually be going underneath it. It'll just be for water to pass through. But I reckon somewhere another time in the city further away, I'm gonna have an actual wider canal, like maybe a basin or something, where I'll have typical barges and houseboats, and the normal things that you'd see in the London canals, which normally are a bit wider than this one. I also find it a bit annoying because water in City Skylines is really complicated to actually get to do what you want it to do, and most of the time it'll just do whatever it wants. Really, the water physics is very confusing and hard to get right. So currently you'll see at the end of the video in the cinematics, the water moves super fast, but in real life in a canal it's pretty still, and I couldn't really find a way to get it to do like that. Although I think if I did a basin, then I could have it less water. Like I could create a water source with very little water, and in the end it would probably be level and still. So I'll have to try and play around a bit later on to see how I can get it to work. But I'm pretty confident that I'll find a way eventually. So stay tuned for that, I guess. Here I'm just adding some decorations, trees and such along the canal front. And here I started putting a few fences along, which eventually, as I said, I got rid of. Although I might add them again, of course. So here I moved on to kind of filling in the backyards of the buildings I placed down here, and I used a lot of kind of bins, skips, grunge decals, all that kind of stuff, and I really like doing these kind of backyards. I like adding the kind of bit more for a dirty, neglected feel to these areas. I think it's really cool because the rest is obviously quite clean. Especially for London suburb standards, I guess. It's all quite nice with like cafes and the canals and all that. And then behind here I kind of placed the less so nice, the not so nice areas around the apartment blocks where they put down the rubbish and all that. And I like using all these decals as well to really fit the area. So this episode is sort of coming to a close here. I do a few more things. I mess around with some of these tiles, I decorate some of the canals, and I also do the construction site that you'll see soon, where they're building a new high-rise apartment block. So yeah, the next few episodes I'll be working in, I guess, an area around what I've built here to the sides, and I'll be building, especially I'll try and do the council estate that you can see in the cinematic at the beginning, is next to this area. I want to do that, but I might wait for some more assets. I'm not sure, or I might build some assets myself. But there are a few new UK council blocks that have gone on the workshop by Rec 400, I believe. He built some quite recently, although they're not they're kind of concrete facade apartments, and I was wanting to put down some more brick facade apartments, so I'm not sure. I might build some myself in time. Otherwise, I definitely want to do a kind of Georgian Victorian suburb area with nice squares and courtyards and avenues, probably to the north of this area, and that'll be heavily inspired by the area that exists in real life called De Beauvoir Town, which is just to the north. It's quite a nice area. Apart from that, I also want to go and move on to do a bit more of an area a bit similar to this, a bit of a hipster area, gentrified area like Shoreditch or Hoxton. That'll be kind of cool, especially with all the train lines cutting in and out, and also little shops and things that are inside of the railway arches. I think that'll be pretty cool. And in Shoreditch there's also a building which I believe has a train on top of it. I think there's something in real life that's inside the train. I'm not sure what it is, if it's just for decoration or if there's a cafe or something inside of it, I forget, but I think creating something like that would be cool as well in this. And then I also want to do the kind of canal basin area with houseboats, because I didn't really get around to doing this here in the end. The canal I put down was mainly it was not really like the canals you see, so creating a bit of a stiller basin, lots of boats and houses around it and stuff, like the Regency Canal that exists in London in real life. I think that'll be fun too, so stick around for that. So yeah, I'll leave you here and see you in the cinematics, I guess. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you want to see more. See you next time.